Now the deadlift is seemingly a very simple exercise. Basically you bend over and you pick the bar up off the floor. It seems pretty simple. There's a lot of nuances to it, however, that make it a fairly complicated lift, and overall for your body it's a very draining lift, especially with when you get up into higher weights. It becomes a big drain on the central nervous system, in addition to just being physically taxing on your actual muscles and the low back and the hamstrings and stuff. One of the first things with the deadlift is wearing proper shoes. A lot of athletic shoes and Olympic lifting shoes are not as good for this lift in its pure form because a lot of them have a heel on them. So they've got, sometimes a heel, this much. And that's not good for the deadlift. It puts a lot of your weight much more forward than it needs to be, than is optimal. One thing, a lot of guys use Chuck Taylors, a nice flat-soled shoe, flat-bottom shoe. Lots and lots of guys squat and deadlift in Chuck Taylors. Personally, I use wrestling shoes because it's what I have, and it's easy to wear to the gym, and I don't ruin my Chuck Taylors by getting chalk and shit all over them. But a lot of guys will even deadlift in not bare feet because of your gym rules, but they'll just wear socks, no shoes at all, and they'll deadlift like that. So keep that in mind. If all you have is athletic shoes, then consider using just socks or just going with it and being aware that it might make the exercise more difficult. Either way. The next point, we're going to talk about your grip for the deadlift. Everybody has seen the traditional over-under grip, the alternating grip, where one hand is overhand and another hand is underhand on the bar. The alternating grip is okay, but long term, it can, once you start getting up into really heavy weights, you can be susceptible to getting a bicep tear on your underhanded arm because it's very easy when you pull the tension out of the bar to actually use your arm to pull the tension out and get a bend in your elbow, which puts a lot of pressure on the biceps tendon. A lot of people have had a bicep injury because of this. The other two grips are regular double overhand grip, which this is the weakest grip to use. It's much weaker than alternating grip. Double overhand is the least efficient grip. However, I've found that double overhand really hits my back in a very different way, and I like it. It gets my lats and my upper traps much more than regular alternating grip, but I can do less weight. And that brings me to the third grip. The third grip style here is what's called the hook grip. The hook grip is a variation of the double overhand grip where you reach around and grab your own thumb with your middle finger, like this. You reach around the bar, grab your own thumb with your middle finger, and you do your reps like that. This grip takes some practice. I personally have been playing around with it for like 4 months now on my warm-up sets and different stuff, and now I'm at a point where I'm comfortable with it and I'm able to do it during my real work sets, and this is a very weird feeling grip. It's kind of strange how it all works, but it works good. Lots of Olympic lifters use it because you can even if your grip doesn't slip off, you can lose a lot of power on the Olympic lifts in the bottom when you're picking that weight up. So this grip lets you transfer a lot more power to the bar, and it's a stronger grip. It's very strange, so practice it for a while with your warm-up sets until you get the hang of it. I'm using it right now, and I have been for a while, and I like it a lot. Now onto the lift. You're going to approach the bar and get your feet at about shoulder width apart. This is not a sumo deadlift. That'll be a separate video. This is a regular conventional deadlift. So get your feet about shoulder width apart. And then get your hands as close to your hands about shoulder width also. You don't want your elbows and your knees to interfere with each other. So mainly your hands should be just outside of your knees so they don't conflict on the way up. When you set up, when you step your feet up right to the bar, a lot of people will say put your shins against the bar. That is wrong. What you want is the bar about an inch, inch and a half away from your shins. So it should be right over your shoelaces. That way, when you bend down to pick the bar up and your knees travel slightly forward, at that point, they will touch the bar. but do not start with the bar touching your shins. You want to start with the bar over mid-foot, over your shoelaces, about an inch, inch and a half away from your shins. Arms straight. A lot of people, the cue is to flex your triceps. You want straight arms. And another way to think of it is they should just be ropes holding the weight. You don't want to bend and flex your biceps when you do this. All right, we've grabbed the bar. Now flex your lats. Imagine pulling the bar into you, and as it goes up, as it breaks your knees, that's when pulling the bar into you is going to matter more. So, but flex your lats. Imagine pulling that bar back into you. You want your shoulders directly over the bar, directly over it, because you want to pull the bar up in a straight line. You want to breathe in, lift the weight up. You want to keep a flat back as much as you can, a flat back here. You're going to thrust your hips forward at the end to help with the lockout. So basically, a way to think of this is you want to flex your ass. Flex your butt cheeks really hard. Push those hips forward. In the end, breathe out at the top. Don't keep holding your breath. Even with a belt, if you're going to hold your breath and do what's called the Valsalva maneuver, you breathe in, push out against the belt, and lift the weight up. You want to breathe out at the top. You don't want to hold your breath through the whole way. You hold your breath too much, you're going to pass out. Settle everything. There's no need to shrug your shoulders or anything like that. Just settle it, and then back down under control. Every rep should start from a dead stop. This is called the deadlift for a reason. So every rep should start from a dead stop. Do not bounce the weight off the ground in between reps. That's not what the deadlift is for. Do not do that. Pick the weight up, lower it back down, stop. Breathe in. Make sure everything is still tight. Tighten your lats. Everything is still tight. Breathe in. Do the next rep. And here you'll see an example of doing a whole work set of 5 reps here with the pause. So every rep will be a dead stop, dead lift off the floor. Another thing to remember, especially as you start being able to do higher and higher weight, pull the slack out of the bar. When you get your get your feet and get your hand spacing, and once you grab the bar, pull the tension out of it. On heavy weight, you'll feel there's a slight bend in the bar, and the heavier the weight gets, it's almost an inch of bend in the bar. And if you don't pull that tension out of it before you start your lift, you want to do it before you start your lift. So pull it tight first. That's a whole inch, and you're not moving the bar that much. You're moving the bar maybe 18 inches total. So that's a large percentage of the lift that's just dead slack, and that could put you in a bad spot. You could put a lot of force in, pulling that weight up, and the whole first inch, you haven't even moved the weight, you've just pulled the slack out of the bar. That's not good, and it's going to really affect your ability to do higher and higher weights. What not to do? Don't bounce the weight off the floor. Don't round your back. Don't change position going on the way up. If the weight gets hard, don't start rounding that back. Use collars, especially if you're new at this and sometimes you might bounce the weight off the floor. Use some fucking collars. It's the last thing you want is to have a bunch of these weights vibrate off the end. One, that could set you up for injury if suddenly a 45 drops off one fucking side and not off the other, and weird twisting and shit can happen. That's bad. Don't do that. Use collars. This is mainly in point of safety. I assume you're all working out in a gym with other people, a commercial gym or something. You don't want to have a bunch of weights falling off. You can't control what happens to them after they fall off, and you got to be considerate of other lifters. Keep that in mind. Collars. And that's it. The deadlift, a seemingly simple exercise, and especially as you get higher and higher, get to be lifting more and more weight, or if you want to get into powerlifting, there's lots of nuances that I haven't even covered in the video, and nuances that I haven't even personally discovered myself. But it's a good exercise. Hits your posterior chain, your lower back, your hamstrings, and your lower lats, traps even. It's a very good exercise. It's a very draining exercise. Hopefully this video is informative. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comments section below. Check out strengthcycle.com. And if there's anything you want me to cover in the future, leave it in the comments section. And stay tuned to Strength Cycle.